The Vertigo Recovery Doctor. I'm Dr. Kevin Smith. I'm a vestibular physical therapist, and today I'm going to talk about 3 reasons why you might be getting dizzy with turning your head. So, I'm going to go over a few reasons of why this might be happening, and stick around to the end of the video. I'm going to talk about what you can do to fix it or help resolve the problem. So, the first is probably the most common, results from what we call a vestibular hypofunction. So, vestibular being the inner ear system, and hypo being low function. And this typically results from a vestibular neuritis, which is inflammation of the inner ear nerve that carries information from the inner ear system to the brain. Now, when you have some kind of inflammation, in the instance of a vestibular neuritis, it's inflammation of that nerve. It weakens the nerve, so it can't send signals as strongly as the other side, which causes dizziness in the beginning. But oftentimes you're left with this kind of continued dizziness when turning your head quickly. And typically people experience this sensation where you turn your head quickly and it's almost as if the world has to catch up with them. And the reason is because that VOR, vestibular ocular reflex, isn't functioning as well as it should. It should be keeping your eyes on a target whenever you move your head. But when you have a weakness in the inner ear, it can't keep up. So there's a reflex between the inner ear and the eyes. When you turn your head quickly, it should keep your eyes on target. So if you turn your head to the left, it moves your eyes to the right so that they stay there. And this is one of the fastest reflexes in the body. And so it should be pretty on point when you're turning your head. But if you have a weakness in the inner ear, then your eyes are going to kind of go with your head and then come back. And that's when you get that sensation of the world kind of having to catch up with you. So this is probably one of the most common reasons why people experience dizziness with quick head turns, is because that VOR, the vestibular ocular reflex, is impaired, because that vestibular nerve is weakened and it's not sending signals as quickly as it should. Now, a second reason of why you might be experiencing dizziness with head turns is if you're experiencing cervicogenic dizziness, so dizziness coming from impairments with the neck. Now, your neck gives you a sense of where you are in space. So all the muscles and the joints send signals to the brain saying that your head's turned to the left or turned to the right, up, down. And this has to match up with all the different systems in your body. Your inner ear, your vision, and that proprioception is part of what we call the somatosensory system. And so if it's not matching up with what the inner ear and the eyes are telling you, then if you get this mismatch, that causes dizziness. Now, particularly people who have cervicogenic dizziness, most often they'll be kind of looking up or to the side for a prolonged period of time. And then once they come back to center, they experience kind of this wooziness sensation. Not all the time. Some people present differently, but a lot of times this is what my patients are telling me. Either they're looking up for a long time, or they're looking down, reading a book, or looking at their phone, and then once they come up, they get this kind of whoa dizziness sensation. So that's an instance where turning your head can cause dizziness as well, because of the impairments in the neck are causing this mismatch with information being sent to the brain. Now, the third could be more of a motion sensitivity. This could have to do with how the brain's processing all the information that it's getting. Sometimes it just gets overwhelmed. Now, let's say that you're going past something with busy visual environment. So there's a lot of information you're in a crowded area, or you're going up and down the aisles of a grocery store, and you're turning your head left and right, and your brain's having to take in all this information, look at all the items in the grocery store, and process all the people walking past, and you're just overstimulated. So this is another instance where you could be getting dizziness when you're turning your head quickly, is because all the visual information that you're getting is just too much for your brain to process. That's probably going to come on a lot with conditions like 3PD, persistent postural perceptual dizziness. And there could be other conditions that are probably a little more rare. Is the brain has a mechanism where it can suppress the VOR. So and we call it VOR cancellation, where your head and your eyes move together. And if your head and your eyes are moving together and you're getting dizzy with that, you may be getting what we call saccades, these kind of rhythmic movement of the eyes when you're turning your head. And that could possibly cause dizziness too, probably not as common. The first three that I talked about are going to be the uh, the reasons that you experience more often. So we've gone through a couple of the reasons that you might be getting dizziness with turning your head quickly. What can you do about them? So the first one being the vestibular hypofunction, where you have a weakness in the inner ear. Now, there's a ton of research that talks about rehabbing the VOR, that vestibular ocular reflex, and we do it with gaze stabilization exercises. And that's kind of self-explanatory. You're keeping your gaze stabilized on a target, and typically I'm using like a post-it note with a letter on it, and I have somebody hold it about arm's length away from them. You're keeping your eyes on that target, and you're moving your head left and right. And so with this exercise, you're trying to move your head as fast as you can while you're still keeping that letter in focus. If your eyes start to jump off, then you got to slow down a little bit. But you want to continue to kind of push that line of where it starts to get blurry, your eyes start jumping off again. You're trying to train that reflex. So you kind of want to go up to that line and then back off a little bit, go up to that line of where it starts to get blurry, you jump off again, and then go back off a little bit. You're trying to push it so that you can go faster with still keeping it in focus. This can get a little tricky if you're already motion sensitive. If you're getting symptoms with it, you may have to back off on the amount of time you do it or the speed. That's where it kind of gets a lot really individualized based on your symptoms and what you're experiencing. So that one is, you got to do a lot throughout the day. So almost, depending on if you have one side that's affected or both sides that affected, if it's just started or if it's chronic, you're looking at doing it for 18, 20 minutes a day, or even more for chronic conditions, especially if you have both sides that are affected. So usually I break this up into 3 sets of a minute, 5 times a day, and kind of start there. Unless you have a chronic condition, then you may be wanting to do it more. Now, this is what they've shown in the research to have the best effect, to kind of have the most or the best response to rehab with this exercise. Something's better than nothing, so start where you can. But if you're able to do that as much as they recommend throughout the day, you're probably going to see the fastest and the best response, and you're probably going to get better quicker. But yeah, please start with you can, especially if you're getting symptomatic with doing the exercise. You got to start off with less time or go slower in the beginning. Now, the second thing is if you're getting dizziness coming from the neck, if you have more of that cervicogenic dizziness, you kind of need to figure out if you have a mobility issue or if you have more of a weakness. So are the muscles or the joints tight? Do you need to be doing more of the stretching, or are you kind of that hypermobile and need more stability and strengthening exercises for the neck? And that's where that kind of comes down to almost 2 pathways. Sometimes you have both together. You're tight because some muscles are overreacting to stabilize your neck because you have so much hypermobility, because your joints move too much. You're getting a lot of tightness from that. So you may need to be stretching certain muscles where you need to be focusing on stabilizing with other muscles. A lot of times with my patients, I'm doing a combination of both. You may need some mobility and some stability. It's just kind of individualized based on the person, on what I focus on more of. And then the third thing, visual motion sensitivity was that third one. If you're having trouble like in busy environments, if you're having trouble going up and down the aisles or crowded areas, what you want to do is make sure that you don't completely avoid everything. You want to address any anxiety if you're having anxiety with going in those kinds of situations. And you want to continue to expose yourself, but take breaks. If you're going in the grocery store, don't want you to just go in, get overwhelmed, and then just bail and get out of there. I want you to go in. If you're starting to get symptomatic and you need a break, take a moment, pretend like you're reading the back of a label or something like that, or looking at an item in the store. Take some deep breaths, and once your symptoms go back down again, continue shopping. So the best thing that you can do is to try and expose yourself to that in a calm kind of manner. Make sure that your nervous system isn't getting over or heightened, and so that your brain can actually adapt and learn is what we're trying to do, is teach your brain that it's okay to do those activities, even though you're experiencing some symptoms. So the big thing is to make sure that you have a positive mindset when you're going through that, to break it up, take lots of breaks, and make sure that you're staying in a calm kind of state so that your brain can adapt. Because if you're in this kind of fight or flight, really heightened anxiety, anxious state, your brain's not going to adapt. You're not in the mindset to really let your brain kind of make changes and have that neuroplasticity. So address any anxiety that you might be having, and make sure that you are exposing yourself to some kind of busy environment, whether it's, even if it's just a busy background at home that you do some exercises in front of. I mean, maybe it's not quite the grocery store yet. I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments. I'd love to hear your experiences. And if you need any further help in figuring out what might be causing your vertigo and what to do about it, you can check out my free ebook that I'll put in the link below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.